Business is personal, and on Founder Steps, we stop pretending otherwise. Each episode, I catch up with the founder and ask the questions that are usually not being asked. As a result, a deep, profound business insight, because now you can understand who is behind the business and understand the deeper why, not just the facts that you can Google. So follow for more and let's go. Woo! So hello, we have a Kristian here. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
So our goal today is to discover and unleash how you make decisions, how you actually think as an entrepreneur, and what our audience can learn from it. So one of the questions I have, actually all the questions are not prepared, so it's all over the go. It will be a total surprise for Kristian. So first of the questions I want, what is the most expensive mistake you ever made?
The most expensive mistake I ever made, I think it depends also when I made that mistake, as in expensive is relative. But I think the most expensive one I made was the first time I had a website developed for college life. So that's my business. It's a club for young internationals worldwide. And what I did is I found an agency that worked with students, and they did an amazing job because essentially were able to develop a website at a relatively reduced cost because the students make it. And I came there and I pitched my idea of what I want the website to look like exactly, as in page by page, element by element, and I had a very clear vision. The reason it was an expensive mistake is that I'm not a UX UI designer, and they did a great job at developing it exactly as I wanted. And when I saw it, I immediately saw that it was a mistake. So they had designed it perfectly according to my needs, but my needs were very much off. So it was hilarious because I was like, that is exactly what I wanted, but that's probably not how a website should look. And so it helped me understand that actually when asking for help from other people who are really good at what they do, it's not just about telling them what you want, it's actually having them guide you so that at the end, the product is what you want and not what you think you want. And it seems like this is very obvious, but this is something that no matter when you're asking for it, no matter what the skills that you have are, unless you really understand that particular skill, I saw that, yeah, I mean, there's pretty much no chance that you will get it right the first time. But if you guide me and I tell you what I think I want, you'll actually explain what I do want, and then we can get to the end. So yeah, that was the first time. There were many other mistakes with developing websites. Now we finally have a functioning web app, but this was probably the funniest one because it was exactly what I wanted, but in the end it wasn't. So yeah.
Okay. That's a really precious, let's say, lesson of the books, because when you hire someone and you exactly, especially pay the money to do the job, you gotta trust them with their work, right? What actually keeps you motivated when you work with your like companies?
I think that if you work on projects that you really enjoy, you don't really need much motivation. And it's weird, but it's as if you said, what gets you motivated to play a sport, right? Like what gets you motivated to go play paddle. It's not necessarily that I'm not looking forward to playing paddle. I'm always looking forward to playing paddle. So what keeps me motivated is the possibility of that potential of the company, of the growth of the company, and what we can do. And most of the time, just kind of visualizing and sketching where we would be possibly heading, right? And I think that if you keep working on that, if you don't get lost, of course, or
Yeah.
if there's not particular situations that cause you to be under pressure where you start disliking what you're working on and start realizing maybe there's other things you want to focus on, then everything should be relatively motivating naturally, in my opinion. Now, when things get tough, I think it's important to realize why you do things
Yeah.
and whether actually you are doing them because you enjoy them or because maybe you got in a situation that you didn't want to get into in the first
Yeah.
place. So I have an example. I had a situation where I had to decide what do I do after graduating. I could have continued with college life. I could have continued with this watch business, which is
Oh, this is your watch?
that's my watch
Oh, wow.
for a Kickstarter that we never launched. So this is a prototype that
Okay, that's
never
very cool.
went
Okay.
live.
Okay.
But I could also have continued working at the company I was working for. It was a co-working, or option four, an investor invited me to actually join his new startup.
Okay.
So lots of different options, right? I had to realize that actually there was only so much time I had and I couldn't split myself in four. And to choose not to move forward, for example, with this investor that had invited me and my co-founder to join that event was very important because I could understand what I wanted in the next 5 years, what I didn't, but I had to really, really think about it. And it was a very tough decision. But I think I would have found myself in a situation where I would have been working on someone else's project, and I could have realized, well, maybe I shouldn't have started that in the first place. And so once you're in that situation, you're like, do I continue? Do I stop it? And you can see when people have doubts that they might not be sure whether it's the right way to head.
If to sum up, like the thing that's, let's say, keeps you up at night doing the things you want to do is, first of all, having a vision, let's say, right, where you want to develop. So that's already kind of no need for extra motivation. You're just going there and realizing it, the potential. Also, what I heard from what you just said is actually very important to know when to say no. Like, like to understand what is yours, what is not. And just a good question, for example, this watch, is it a reminder, or what does it mean for you to wear this watch and not having proceeded with this project?
Well, one, I really like, I still like the design. It's still working after, I think it's been probably 10 years. So I'm very, very happy with this. But I think that in the future will be a reminder. I think right now I just like, having it,
Okay.
wearing it. And what's important is that even if something doesn't work out or you never launch it, in this case, it didn't really work out, or it's not that it failed,
Yeah.
but we never launched it. It doesn't mean that the world's over. I
Yeah.
think projects come and go, companies come and go. To give an example, college life was called study financing Rotterdam first. Before my coach told me, well, you shouldn't localize this to one city because this is a problem for all the Netherlands.
Yeah.
We immediately started calling it study financing Netherlands. Then we rebranded 3 years later to college life. And if you saw the changes in the website and our positioning, it changed every 2 years because we realized like there's something else happening on the market. And most importantly, I think step by step, you have to keep thinking about your position in the market. That's the most important. There's a value chain and you're a piece of it. You cannot be arrogant and say, well, we do everything. And if you are, great, but that's going to only be the downfall of you because there are people who can do things 10 times as well as you. But if you're really good at that one thing and you fit in a value chain, such as with college life work, we focus at the towards kind of the middle of the funnel, so matchmaking students to jobs,
Yeah.
and then they're off to actually have the hiring process and so on. But we don't hold their hands and actually walk them through the whole process like some agencies do. That's good. That's their role. But our goal is to match you with a job, and that's it. Then you continue with the process. And I think understanding the market, understanding your industry, and what the other players do, and if they do it in a similar way, why you do it differently, it just helps you to know you're on the right path. And if you're not, to change, to switch the path before it's too late.
That's a good one. Well, it's never late to change, I guess. Like, you just need to be open for that, I guess, and be open for the new opportunities and etc. As you said, that you change the position almost every, let's say, 2 years. And I think it's really important to be up to date with the market, with the needs, and where you're going, and etc. And it's okay to pivot. And actually, there are so many examples of great pivots when the people, like in the companies, and people succeeded when they changed something. So this is amazing. And I'm just curious, when you were a kid, who you were dreaming to become?
I didn't really have somebody to look up to other than my father, for example, and in general, my family members and my whole family that was very entrepreneurial. So, for example, my great grandfather and well, my grandfather, he was within the wine industry and he did a very good job at being a CEO of one of the most successful sparkling wines in Czech Republic. So that was very inspiring. But then my dad was an entrepreneur. He is still an entrepreneur, very inspiring. I think it was more having different inspirations from different people, seeing what they do, and not necessarily just locking in on one person saying, I want to become that person, but just figuring out actually if what you're doing is something that you enjoy and if it's the path that you want. And I think I've been always thinking about this, right? As in, um, which way do I go and why did I end up in a certain situation? And I think it's good to reflect on that, as in why am I the one doing sales and not the coding? As in, what do you enjoy? Because there's always something underlying of why you enjoy certain things and don't. For example, I can see that if there are people that enjoy, and I'm not one of them, puzzling, and they like puzzling and they like solving games or solving, for example, those little
Rubik's.
yeah, Rubik's Cube, and even those kind of like games where you have to unlock something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Those are typically, I think, also the types of personas that really enjoy coding and developing and programming because it helps, it's something that it's either right or wrong. Like you cannot write a line of code and if there's one mistake and you trigger, it's not going to work. And I think that's interesting because I'm very much the opposite. I like much more of the creative world and thinking of different solutions from different angles.
Okay.
And that's in an interesting way tied to sales, because sales is not a direct straight line path. It's very much creative. It has to do a lot with psychology as well. And it flows into other parts of your lives. And I think that it helps you realize not only what you enjoy, you can think about why do you enjoy those things. And for the things that you don't necessarily enjoy, you can work with people that really enjoy those things.
Yeah.
And then you make a good team, either as a co-founder or as somebody who's, for example, partnering up with you on it, or an employee. I think it's, there's many different ways,
Okay.
but don't worry, like you don't need to do anything in my opinion, and I think that for me, it was a realization of like, okay, I'm heading in the right path. I want to be a generalist. I want to get good at a lot of things. Those things that I don't want to get good at, like to work with good partners and good support, have mentors around you. And I've had really amazing people to support me along the way. I had, business coaches.
Okay.
I've had investors, entrepreneurs, founders that have guided me, and the more brutally honest they were, the better, right? You know how
Yeah.
it goes, and it helps you, it pushes you, because it helps you think, why are they saying this? And of course, you might not always believe that it's in your best interest,
Yeah.
but it pushes you and it makes you realize that maybe this advice will push me in the right direction to what you hypothetically think you want to achieve in life.
Okay, that's awesome. So first of things, I heard what you said is, let's say you have this entrepreneurship lie in your genetics almost. So let's say that's a good one, and I liked how you highlighted that you don't need to be like liking and doing the things that you don't like, right? And but you can team up with the people who are good at it. And you know what? I had the belief when I was a kid. I actually wanted to be a scientist and actually invent something, but I always thought that I'm not that smart. But then I realized that you don't need to be that smart. You actually can also work with people who are all can be also smarter than you, and that's okay. And that's actually the best case scenario, right? And then you can just guide them through to inventing or reinventing and etc. So this is like a lot of possibilities when you actually team up with the people who you can work with and like combine your skills and knowledge, let's say, and like become better and whatever. So I think that's inspiring. Another question I have, in terms of like money, okay? If the money was not an issue, what would you do? Like, if have unlimited money resource at this moment, what would you do? Maybe differently.
I don't necessarily think so. I think I would do things differently because I already launched projects that are more passion projects than maybe my core business. Even though my core business has been a passion project from the start, because it was a problem that I had myself as my own target audience. And then I focused on scaling it and helping other young internationals worldwide. But I think I would just do more of what I'm doing. And my goal would be to have as much balance in life as possible. And it seems simple, but it's very tough. I think, especially in Barcelona and in other cities worldwide. The balance is tough because you need to understand who your friends are. You need to understand where your focus is, how much time you invest and spend on certain things and other things. So I think that's really important to think of. And balance has been the one thing that always helped me keep things in check. So, your work, your family, your own personal life, your sports, your health, those are so important to be in balance. And if you are doing a little bit more of one, you're sacrificing the other. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
So you have to decide, do you want to make those sacrifices? In my opinion, entrepreneurs can make those sacrifices and probably should, but only as a short sprint. Like if stress, chronic stress is bad, but acute stress, short-term stress is fine.
Yes.
You don't wake up in the morning without stress. Like stress is what gets you out of bed. That's a physical reaction of your body. And I think the same is with this. You can push as an entrepreneur. You can, have a couple months where you go all out. You don't meet new people. You don't, meet anyone. You just lock yourself in. But doing that chronically, doing that long term, it will affect your health. It will affect also your relationships around you. You will start losing people around you. So I think that I wouldn't do anything differently. I would still strive for the same thing, which is to keep balance in the life, to keep doing things I enjoy, to keep partnering with brands that I love and that are the dream brands I would have always wanted to partner up with. That's what I'm doing with the Brunch Cup, for example.
Yeah, awesome.
To keep the friends and family and loved ones close to you and stay in good contact with them, because it would help me have that feeling of completeness on a day to day. And I think that that's actually what everyone's striving for. It's not to become the most successful, the wealthiest, the most successful athlete. Like, yes, in essence, but if you see successful athletes that are also happy in their life, you can see that they're not usually doing things exactly the same way.
Yeah.
To give you an example, Max Verstappen, one of the most successful F1 drivers, the Dutch driver, you can see that he is not a big fan of anything that's off site, like off the track. Like, he doesn't like interviews. He doesn't participate in the activities. He doesn't go into media. He doesn't care. He doesn't need the attention because he wants to spend all that time with his family. That's all that matters to him. And there's a big difference between that and somebody who wants the spotlight on himself. So on, not that one thing is wrong with the other, but he has his priorities set. And I think that people should think about what do you want to have as a priority, because if you don't have that balance,
Yes.
I think that you might suddenly start feeling unhappy, don't know why. And you're like, maybe it's Barcelona, or maybe it's my friend groups, or maybe it's that. Most of the time, I think it's the way you structure what your optimal life looks like. And so, again, if coming back to your question, if I have infinite resources, it would be to have that balance, because it's not that I want more of something or less of something. I would just want to have that balance, and it's redistributing the way I invest
Yeah.
into myself and how I use my time. That's the number one thing I would always want to keep in check.
Awesome. And as you mentioned, right, we have limited resources, at least in our time and focus. And as I always say, where the focus goes, money flows as well. And I'm just curious now, as you mentioned the balance thing, like who are you, not in terms of work related, it's like not business and etc. Who are you besides that?
Like, I'm literally just a kid, that wants to have as many hobbies as possible.
Okay.
I literally want to print this on their shirt, which is I have way too many hobbies. And I think that's an issue with a lot of people here in Barcelona. So it's that. It's like I'm just a kid because I want to, go out, play paddle. I want to go out, be a DJ for a night and do things that you really enjoy, that you maybe have secretly dreamed of that you don't even know. But that's actually what it is. That's what I am. And I think where that takes me, we'll see. But for now, I'm doing what I really enjoy, and I think people should do more of that. And like you said, coming back to saying no, it's not that you should be a person that says no to everything, but you should be a person that decides what you do with your time wisely. And once you have kind of a base, once you feel, okay, this is especially in a new place, I think it's tough when you move abroad. You don't have friends, you don't have family, you don't have anything there, so you need to build that base. But once you have that, I think you can just stick to that, and then step outside sometimes once in a while. But yeah, feel like you do the things that you want to actually do. That's literally me. That's why I started the Brunch Club, for example. It's an avenue, and a way, a channel for me to be able to do whatever I want in a new city, to meet very interesting people, to help other people succeed if I can, to let other people have fun as well at events that I think I would enjoy. So it's almost like hosting events for myself and for what I think I would enjoy and hopefully other people enjoy. And it's a good realization of that, because sometimes we live in our bubble, and we think we want something, or we are doing certain things that we think fuel us, but slowly we feel more unhappy and more drained, and we don't know where the root cause is. And even worse, what I've seen lately is that even with, for example, professional help, you might know what the root cause is, but you're just not willing to fix it. You're just like,
That's also a decision, I guess.
and I think that's the biggest decision.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what the root cause is. Now it's actually up to you to make that change. Like, you've discovered it. You found the hidden gem. You found the root cause, and then it's all about what you do. It's not gonna change by, I think, having more people tell you what might be wrong with you, or asking for help and getting the same answer. You need, at the end of the day, if you figure it out, you need to start fixing it. Even if it's step by step, even if it takes 2, 3, 4 years, I think you can work towards it. And everyone has those flaws and issues, but then it becomes about prioritizing it, right? And seeing, okay, maybe you're trying to avoid fixing it, that you'd rather go to social events, social activities, and disconnect yourself, rather than be like, okay, I need to actually work on this and and fix most of it.
Well, we already like let's say twice touched the basics, let's say of the like a balance and also being happy and being understanding of what you want and etc. And like understanding the root case of like your scenarios and etc. Like talking for example to the audience, what helps you to understand yourself more, like in which like let's say which timeline you're right now, like in which like happiness level and etc. Like do you have like a self check or something that helps you to be more on top of the things on a regular basis and stuff?
I think that there's different ways you can do this. You can keep a journal, or you can just write down thoughts that you have. Usually for me, it's both. So I try to journal every day and then just put my thoughts down. Not that I have any specific ones, but whatever comes to mind. And most of the time, it's just randomly at like 2, 3 a.m. when I can't fall asleep, when I have a lot of processing going on, because that's just how your brain works. It processes so much information at such a fast pace that I need to write it down. Otherwise, I go crazy. And I've had the biggest kind of changes and shapes towards the direction of which I head into at those moments, like at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's really random, but if it comes, like it should come to you, I think it comes to you eventually because you think about those things. So I think step one, think about them and let your brain, yes, exactly, exactly. Let your brain do the work because it can rewire and it can think of creative solutions and then note them down. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But for me, 99% of the time, whatever I thought of as in a potential solution, I executed it and it was
Right.
successful for me. So if you can sleep and you have a thought, don't just leave it, like write it down. And as much detail as possible because it's something that could actually be a very long-term solution. And it's usually in the most critical times where you're really struggling, where, you have a tough time to continue to push through.
Yeah.
Those solutions will come to you, but like listen to them. Don't be like, maybe it's not worth it. Like actually act on them and structure it and start testing it and figure out if that's a viable way to move forward. For me, those have been the moments. I don't do necessarily regular check-ins. Of course, I have certain goals I track and so on, but it's never been that I have a certain forced moment where I force myself to be creative or to be in that situation. I think it depends on the context and it comes to you. And so try different environments, right? Maybe it's meditation for you. Maybe it's going for a really long holiday, or you go to go trekking for a multi-day hike. Anything, right? Yeah, it could be anything. It could be on the paddle court, but I think it's usually you with your thoughts, and it's in the most unexpected kind of times where you're thinking about something and it's you're just in the flow and
Yeah.
it's rewiring and you don't know how you came up with that solution, but you did because it was somewhere there. And it's more, yeah, it's more intuitive. It's not necessarily explicit. It's more implicit. It's more something that just comes from within. So it's testing environments. Yeah.
Sounds interesting for me. Yeah, I would say I would definitely agree with the environments and the, let's say, different types of activities you can do to unleash it. For me, it was always like running and showering. I don't know why, but yeah, maybe cleaning or whatever. Like it's just like I think the most brilliant ideas always came to me at this particular times. So I think that's it.
Exactly. For me, it was also swimming sometimes, right? You're
Swimming,
going, you're
yeah.
by yourself, you're like in the water, and then
Yeah, no music as well.
no music. Yeah, yeah. I think the more stimuli you have, the worse it is. So I don't think this is possible in very busy environments, very social environments. It's almost impossible, I think, basically because you don't leave that space for that,
Yeah,
for
always
your brain.
interaction, always
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So what keeps you at night at 3 a.m.? What are your thoughts usually at that time?
Everything. It's a weird blend of life, and work and everything. But I think that that's also okay because everything's interconnected. So sometimes more solutions for personal life, sometimes more for business. But I think that at the end of the day, it can come up with different potential solutions that you wake up to.
Okay.
You might not even remember them, but most of the time I would act on them the next day. And so what keeps me up at night is most of the time just kind of processing the whole day and the months and the year leading up to it, but not in an explicit way. Again, just because you think about it. And I think everyone has those thoughts and it could be in different contexts, but listen to them actually because it's a funny way of your brain solving it for you. And that's the easiest way because you don't need to do much.
Yeah, just let them flow in and capture them, as you mentioned, right? Write it down. Can you share like a secret desire or a dream that you have, like for yourself, for your future, or for the company, for example?
I think that there's different ones that I have, but for me, it would be most of the time to figure out completely different business models and industries that I've never tapped into. That just seems very distant to me, but I want to get closer to them, step by step. But it's like a big leap.
Okay.
I think one that's really exciting for me is franchising. I think it's really cool. I think franchising is super interesting and different, with different models.
Okay, yeah.
And I see it being very popular right now in Barcelona, for example. You have different franchises and franchisees. One of my favorite also coffee places, the Miners, that started actually in Prague,
Yeah. Oh,
are
yeah,
now
yeah.
here as well, and they have
Yeah,
multiple locations that I keep visiting. And I think it's very interesting because this concept, it's almost like you package your idea and something that worked and you give it to someone and you're like, have fun, I'll guide you
Yeah.
through it, but now
Yeah.
you're a part of it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's what's like this excites me, and I think this is the desire, is just to be able to tap into things that you have never done. Also with music, like I didn't DJ before. I've always watched DJs. I've always watched people play and produce music, but you have to make that leap to actually say. And then of course everyone's gonna say, I wish I did this, or yeah, I'm looking to do this, but eventually, yeah, you just have to jump, make the jump. The best thing is that there's people to support you,
Yeah.
so both in business or in music and whatever. I've had people that I can either copy in what they do well, and I just get inspired by that,
Yeah.
or they literally have the time to guide me through it. And I think that people should be open to that more as well, if they can, to take leaps into directions that they never expected, because it might be actually something for them for the rest of their life. If you're stuck in that same loop, same industry, same field, same people, same city, it becomes monotonous, I think, for you always. I think it's almost always monotonous, but you just don't
Yeah.
tell yourself.
I guess sometimes that's true. And can you mention like a few values that you have that you like, deeply believe in, that you live by and that you leave your businesses by, like, work around those values and how they impact your business, for example?
I think that the most important one is most likely a combination of attention to detail. I think that's important, something that was very new to me and very difficult to learn. I don't think from a young age I had attention to detail. And being committed to something as well. So having that determination to just keep going. I think the combination is lethal in a good way. I think if you have attention to detail and you're committed, so you keep pushing and working on something continuously,
Yeah.
then the motivation, like I said, motivation will come and go. And I think that motivation is also, to a large extent, honestly, biological. So it's also with how do you do sports, or what do you eat, what do you drink? Because I think most of the time motivation should be able to come to us, right? Unless
Yeah.
naturally we have something that doesn't allow us, and it could be that you have also a medical problem that doesn't allow you literally to have motivation. And so I think that motivation is not something that we can talk openly about, like as a choice. Also, like, I'm motivated, or maybe what motivates you. I think that that's a tricky one. The more I learn about motivation, the way the brain works, dopamine, how dopamine works as well,
Yeah.
how serotonin works in combination, right? So it's very biological, but I think that you can set up, as long as you have like the foundations in place, as long as you sleep well, which I need more sleep of anyways, but sleep well, you exercise, you eat well, and you have that baseline. Then I think for me, what's been critical in terms of values is really focusing on the attention to detail, and making sure that you know and other people know what to expect of you. So it's a certain level of quality. It could be showing up on time, right? That's a part of it. But also that commitment and actually moving forward, because it's very easy to start a project and to stop it. And I think that it's too easy sometimes. You're like, well, yeah, it didn't work out. Well, but most of the time you haven't even tried.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily bad, but it's more of like a shame, because it's just about time. Sometimes it really doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And other times it really does work. But I think that's a differentiator as well that will help you, is that most people quit quickly. And if you just push through, I think that the failure rate isn't as high as people say. It's more that actually you will succeed in your own way and have a certain level of success that is enough for you. Maybe not enough for the standard of someone being extremely successful, but if you're doing really well, you're doing what you love and you're happy, I think that's actually what you should be doing, and not striving to become the best, but then really hurting your own determination and your own ambitions in a way that you've had in life for a while.
Also, well, I do think that there is a thin line between, like giving up too early and then like, continuing to push forward with what's already not working. I think as founders, we tend to love our projects, like, and some are referring to it as our little babies or whatever, right? So it's really sometimes hard to be honest to ourselves and say, okay, this idea, like I loved it. It was like it was my baby, let's say, but it's not working and we need to kill it, like, and I think this is like such a hard decision for most of the founders, just to let it go, right? How do you deal that? Because you had so many projects. How many projects you started in your life, and how did you decide that which ones are not like working?
Don't know how many projects, but it wasn't that many that I actually started. So I think that there's a lot of projects that you have in the initiation stage, but you don't actually kick them off. This could be actually one of them. So it never really
Or
failed. It just didn't start.
well, I think it still like counts, okay, because I see
Yeah.
like it's in the real life.
But I think that a lot of them, they just shape in a different way, and so they change form. And I think that doesn't mean you have to kill them. I think that if you're onto something and you really have a good reason because of the fact that you're your own target audience for that particular problem, I think you're onto something. Then it doesn't necessarily mean you have to kill it, but you can just shape it and change. And I think that's where it becomes interesting because it has to be something that's a little bit more flexible nowadays, especially things are moving fast.
Okay.
You need to be very specific, but you can change the way you
Yeah.
position a little bit here and there. But just try to disconnect yourself, of course, from the business as much as possible. It's tough,
Yeah.
but I think that if you have projects, there's only so much emotional connection you can have to them, and you need to still disassociate that. Like, it's still a business, it's still a project, it's still
Yeah.
something that it's okay if it doesn't work out, that you can come back to it. I think that's the fun part. You can always come back to it. It's not like this is it, this is done, it's over. So with this, my dream is as well to make, for example, 50 limited pieces for my friends in the future and give it to them at some point as like,
Okay, that's
here's something that I've been working toward that I wanted to build, and it's a reminder of of how far I've gone, for example. But it could be something else. So I think that nothing is done in terms of a project forever unless you want to completely kill. I think you can just park it, and if it makes sense, start with it.
Okay.
That will help you be less connected emotionally to it and feel like you lost time or something like that. I think you never do that. You never lose time on a project because you learn.
If you learn, if you learn. Okay, what is the good reason to start project business in your like mind? What do you think is a good reason to?
I think a good reason is if you are tired of perhaps the path you've been on for a while and nothing has been able to fulfill you enough, then something that you start yourself. I think as simple as that.
And the last question I have for you: what is your proudest moment or proudest achievement that you had in your life that you're really proud of?
I can't easily answer this question. I'll reframe my answer a little bit because I think that there's not a single achievement that somebody should look into and say this was the biggest achievement, because that automatically also assumes that maybe you'll never reach that. And it might feel a little bit nostalgic immediately every single time. That's not bad, but it's something that I think is possible. I think what's easier is a goal that I set for myself, which is to celebrate success. And that is actually broken down to any success. So it could be that we launched the Brunch Club. That's actually something that's in my calendar. I know on that date we launched the Brunch Club, and we should celebrate that. I should have a reason to take a break and to celebrate it with the co-founders. It could be something slightly different. It could be that I close a specific partner I was always aiming to close. So I think people should have actually many different successes they celebrate. Make sure they note it down. Make sure they celebrate it,
Yeah.
because it'll remind you of how far you've gone, but also what's possible still in the future.
Okay.
So I think that helps you, because I think that there's so many ways you can define a success that we shouldn't just tie ourselves to North Star goals. North Star goals are great to aim for, but there's steps in between and certain achievements that sometimes you don't realize like how crazy it is. Like the fact that we're working with one of the oldest paddle brands in the world.
Yeah.
That for me is crazy, that I've seen their warehouse. I'm working directly with the founder. For me, that's insane, but I don't think about it every day. But sometimes you reflect on it, like, that's really fun and that's really nice. And even, it doesn't have to do anything with money or success. It has to do just with the ability to be able to enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Be more in the present, let's say, right?
Be more in the present and celebrate, multiple successes along the way, because the defined goal in the future is more like a milestone to the next one. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something next. But I think that reflecting on how you got there and the small wins that you have that you don't even know are that big, that's the fun part of realizing. And I think more people should think about that. Like, think about what you've actually achieved and note that down, because you're missing out on a lot of celebration moments and happiness that the past has given you. Especially us entrepreneurs always think about what's next.
Yeah. But we also need to enjoy what we have at this moment.
Exactly. Enjoy the past in the moment, focus on the balance, and the future. Anything's possible. But I think it's thinking of those timelines very actively, very proactively. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, and thank you for your insights for this interview. I hope that helps to our listeners. Yay.
Thank you for hosting me.